have, if you remove this, what I have, the robe I have is called an alb. A-L-B, alb. An alb is only worn by clergy. An alb is different from a cassock. An alb has decorations. There's a cross, and there are some interesting, funny decorations around an alb. An alb does not have straight line key buttons. It's either at the shoulder on the left, it's here halfway, actually quarter way, that's a button, and sometimes it has no button, it has a round neck and no buttons. That is only worn by a clergy. Up to there, are we together? After that, we have what we call a cassock. A cassock comes in two shades. The first shade is the black shade, which is what Wycliffe has at the bottom. This is called a cassock. It's a black cassock. We have choir cassocks. This is worn again by a clergy or a lay reader. But it is not complete for a service if you don't have this. This is called a surplice. So this is put on top of a cassock. So if I was leading a service, and I am in this, which is also a cassock I'm going to explain, I cannot put a stole on top of this. I must put a surplice on top of this, then put a stole. Now, what Betty is putting on is called a white cassock. This is used for any lay person who is leading a service. So you can use this, or an alternative is you do a surplice, plain, without anything on top, without anything. Sorry, I didn't mean to say anything as anything. Of course, on top of your clothes, you put this, but you can't put a cassock if you're not a lay reader and if you're not an ordained minister. So mark the difference between a cassock and an alb. What did I say an alb has? Decoration, cross. The style of button is from the left, and then it sometimes has a round, and if it is from the front, it goes up to here. It doesn't peter here. Anything like this. So this is worn by any lay person who is leading a service, sometimes any lay person who is reading, and in most cases, a verger. And a verger is the only one who has access to walk in the services. Sometimes you see Gerishom walking like a headless chicken, and some of you get distracted. I say if you get distracted because of his walking, then it is you who has a problem. Because when he walks, he's doing his work. He's supposed not to sit squarely in the service. He's supposed to check the sound is okay, the liturgy is running well, the timing is going on, and also coordinate with the usher. So that is typically their work. They are the prefect of the service. He has a right to come and switch off the mic if I am not saying anything related to the service. He actually has a right to switch the mic for me as a vicar if I supersede the time. That's how powerful that person is. And then finally, we get here. So I've talked about a cassock, I've talked about a surplice. This is called Church Army Stole. Now, when you go to Church Army Theological School, which is a recognized theological school with the Anglican Church, when you do 3 years and graduate with a diploma in theology, they commission you, if you are an Anglican, they commission you and you're given a title captain. If you're given a title captain, you are given this stole. This stole is recognized throughout the Anglican communion. not just Anglican Church of Kenya, throughout the communion. So if I appear with this in UK, they will know that is a church army captain. So you can use it for a service as a normal stall. Up to there, are we together? But it must also be put on this. So a church army captain can use this cassock with this stall. Is allowed. The last 4 Sundays have been a bit confusing for some of us. If you check some of your parishes and some of our parishes, the altar has been painted red. I don't know whether you've noticed that, but ours has remained green. None of you has come to ask me, why is our altar green and my Oshago altar is red? Now, in this season, just before we get into Advent, in the Western country, they do red to commemorate or celebrate the soldiers who were slaughtered and died in the battle. So they do red to represent the blood that they shed. So that's why they do that. But for us, we remain green. The only day we do white is the All Saints' Day, which is 1st of November. Then we go back to green. So we'll do green, I think, 1 more Sunday or 2 more Sundays before we get into Advent. Are we well educated now? Are we now better Anglicans? Yes, part of what I do is I teach Anglican in this diocese. And so when people see things happening and they are calling me and asking me, boss, uko kwako ndio kuna madhoga? Ndio hiyo. So just understand. So if you see Betty or any other person who is not ordained in this, just know that the vicar has allowed because it's the right practice. So it could either be this or they could be on the white surplice alone, without something on top and without a cassock beneath. And then the final dressing, quickly fold this. The final dressing for a clergy is this, and this is called a chasuble. Now, this is called a chasuble. A chasuble is put on top of an alb, a stall, and then a chasuble. A chasuble is put on by someone we call a celebrant. A celebrant is the one who presides over the Lord's table, who blesses, consecrates, and breaks bread. It is not a processional vestment, so I cannot process with it. I put it at the time when I now want to bless and consecrate the elements. It is not meant for a wedding. I see some clergy put it on in a wedding. I see some clergy put it on in a funerals. You only put it in a wedding or in a funeral when there is communion. That is allowed. When you come for communion, in a better and Anglican understanding, it is the clergy and the pastoral team first who are served. The second category of people who are served are if they are clergy seated in the congregation, they are served second. The third category is the choir. And when we finish with the choir, we start serving communion from behind. So the ushers us to come from behind. We come through the center aisle and we exit through the side aisles. When you come here after you have received bread, and how do we receive bread? It is in this church that I came and I found people receive bread like this. This is an insult to the communion. When you come to the communion, you receive like this. The left hand is the table, the right hand is the plate. Can I repeat that again? The left hand is the table, the right hand is the plate. So always the right hand is on top. If you are left-handed, we always suggest that when you come, just do a sign of the cross, remove your tongue, and I will place it there. You see what Catholics do? Yes, we are allowed to do that. After you have received your bread, time for wine. We will serve the first person with the wine, the second person with the wine. When I get to the third person, the first person stand. You are not supposed to pray on the altar rail. You go and pray in your pew. Sometimes I have to stand here and wait because people are still praying. So everything we do is symbolic. Receive, once I get to the third person, the first person get. And the reason why we give an allowance is so that you don't get up immediately, lest you knock me or knock the next person and the wine pours down. Last but not least, if a consecrated bread falls down, I, as the clergy, am supposed to take it and eat it, because it is consecrated. Whether it is hygiene or not, I do not know, but what I know, it is consecrated. It is not supposed to be thrown away. The piece is shared by the most senior, the senior most. So if I am not in the pulpit, then the senior most is a captain, not a lay reader. I know that shocks you. Some of you are shocked. So it is the captain who is senior. If I am not there, the captain is not there. It is the senior lay reader. Now, seniority in the Anglican Church is understood in three dynamics. The first dynamics is by year of ordination. The year of ordination. The second is the position held. So we can be here. Allow me to use Reverend Makoha. Reverend Makoha is senior in terms of ordination to me. But now, by the virtue that I am his vicar, now I am senior than him. He's even older than me in age. He's senior in ordination. But now, by my position as the vicar, I am now senior. So in procession, he cannot process behind me. In giving benediction, he cannot give benediction. I give benediction because I am the vicar. So the same goes with the lay readers. Seniority, priority. The senior is given priority. That is what that big English means. So the senior is given priority. So that even happens when we are appointing a dean. The Anglican Church has an archbishop and then it has a dean. The dean is one who acts like the chaplain. Actually, the dean is the one who enthrones an archbishop. So when we look for a dean, we look for the senior-most bishop in consecration and enthronement. So let's say if we had 3 bishops consecrated and enthroned on the same day, how then do we determine the senior? We determine the senior by the first person who the dean laid hands on their consecration. That's how articulate and detailed the Anglican Church is. So we can all be ordained the same day. But when we go to seniority by ordination, the person who the bishop laid hands on first then becomes the senior. See, that's enough for today, so that we don't confuse a lot of people.
Praise the Lord.